What's up, guys? Zach at ZR Chess. Today we're going to do another Tactics Tuesday where we go through tactics together, just kind of break things down that you'll find on Lee Chess, the puzzle dashboard, and hopefully learn some stuff. So, today what we're going to go over in the Lee Chess puzzles, if you follow me here to the puzzles dashboard, like we like to do, and we go to puzzle themes where you find all these themes here. And today we're going to go down to crushing. Crushing is what we're looking at today. So spot the opponent blunder to obtain a crushing advantage. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're going to be keeping our eye out for blunders, which these all have opponents doing blunders. And this is important to train ourselves to look for, because a lot of times when an opponent blunders, we might miss the opportunity. We might look back analyzing our game and see, oh, I had a win there, or there's a hefty advantage I could have had that I missed because I was thinking about my own rules, my own plan. So this is a good one to study on your own. So we'll go through a few of them here. The first one I have is the king here. We're playing black. King is in check, and the white has an advantage by a bishop over a pawn, and white makes a blunder here, going to e5. And if you can spot the blunder here, I'll give you a second. There's a quite significant advantage we can obtain here. So we want to make sure we can't attack with this pawn because it's pinned by our queen, by his queen. And then the queen is also blocking this file here, so it's dangerous to try to attack here in the diagonal. We can't. We could attack here, but if we go here, then he can just block here. Doesn't do us much good, or he can move out of the way, and we're still going to be down material. He's going to slip through our fingers. So here with the blunder, we have a pretty distinct advantage. If we try to work backwards, sometimes it helps. So where would be the best place for our queen right now? If we could just pick up our queen and put it down anywhere on the board, it would be on this diagonal right here, right? Because we check the king and he moves away, and we grab that queen. So if our queen was right here right now, then he would have to move and we would grab that queen. So we want to make sure we can get our queen over here, and the only way to do that, because we don't have direct access here, is by using two moves. And so we're going to have to check him first. So if we look at this right here, we check him, and he has to move or block or whatever he's going to do. So he's going to move out of the way, and now our queen is on that diagonal where we want it. So he has to move out of the way, and then we capture that queen. So by thinking backwards, thinking where we wanted our queen to be, we actually figured out how to defeat white. So remember, thinking backwards where you want your pieces to be can really help you out, and then you can come up with a plan to get them there. So even in an early game, you might think, where would this knight be good right now, and then you can come up with a plan to put him there, and hopefully have a really good game. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so this one is another example, a good example. We've been talking a lot lately about pawn endgames, rook endgames, queen endgames, all that stuff, and it all boils down to pawn endgames. And if you're good at pawn endgames, then you're going to be crushing a lot of these endgames that you're up against. If you don't lose in the middle game, a lot of times it gets down to pawn endgames, and a lot of it is calculation and knowing different calculation tools and different ways of passing pawns. So this is one of those that we're going to need to remember on how to pass pawns. So if we look over here, the king is going to play a whose turn is it? Blacks? Yeah, it's blacks. So the king plays a blunder, and that's going to be anything. That's going to be here, trying to attack our pawn. No, that's what black should do. So this is the blunder. He goes queen 4 or queen or f4, f5, doesn't matter. And so that's the blunder. And the way we're going to beat this is is by taking here on a6. So when we take on a6, he really has no choice but to take back, and then we start pushing, and he cannot stop us because we're too far gone. I believe there was another blunder here that black could have made. That's why I was pausing there. That's a terrible move. But there's also another one that I had seen when I was studying this. Um, yeah, so I believe it's here, and then after we take, and he takes, no, it doesn't work. So I think that was the blunder. All right, so on to chapter three. Okay, so Black King is in check, and he's going to make a fatal mistake by going to g8. Um, and then this opens up a devastating attack. So, see, the knight is unprotected now. And the whole point is, if we got to be careful because we can't move our queen off of this diagonal because if we do, it's going to be checkmate with the queen on b2. So once we take here, black's gonna come here and attack our queen. We got to make sure we don't do that because that's immediate checkmate. So our only option here is c3, and we're winning this position. We're still protecting this. We can bring our rook. Oh no, we can't. But we can bring our rook out and then start protecting this even more. And the whole point here is catching this blunder that the king moved out of the way instead of moving the rook here, or not the rook, moving the knight here, which is the correct move, getting him out of harm's way of our pawn, and then black's gonna have a decent game, but moving the king out of the way and losing the knight is just devastating. So we'll go on to the next one. Crushing blow. All right. So here it's black's turn, and he's gonna do a blunder. We'll go through the correct move first, and we'll go through the blunder first. So queen a7, and everything looks safe here, right? We can't attack this rook because the queen. We can't attack this rook because of the king. Our rook is hidden back here, and we can't very well do anything here crazy. Because the rook and the king, if we try to do something crazy like this, like takes and checkmate, it doesn't work because the king can get out here on e7. So we gotta be a little creative. We're not gonna win a whole piece here, but we are gonna win an exchange. A bishop for a rook, if you can see it. So the bishop comes here and checks on h7, and the king only has two options. He can move here or take, so he might as well be done in exchange instead of a whole piece. He takes, and then we take the rook. And it's a sneaky move, attacking there with the bishop, sacrificing the bishop for an exchange. And the problem is, what he should have done instead is actually just trade queens. That way we couldn't have done that. Um, and then it would still be an even game. And the problem is with a lot of people you'll play, they rely too much on their queens. So the queen is an overpowered piece. It's the best piece in the game, obviously. But a lot of people won't exchange them because they're scared to, because they don't know how to win with minor pieces, and that's not a good reason to not exchange queens. A lot of times there are times where you don't want to exchange queens, maybe because you're behind the material, because your head, or certain situations on the board. But you should never shy away from them just because you're not comfortable with your minor pieces. Get comfortable with your minor pieces because you're gonna need to exchange queens often, and you don't want to shy away and end up doing a blunder because you aren't comfortable without having a queen. It'll lead to losses like no other. I see it all the time. I'll offer an exchange of queens, and then when my opponent doesn't take it, I take advantage of that. Chess psychology. Then next, I'll see a move where I can offer another exchange of queens, and he'll have to either exchange a queen or make a bad move. And a lot of times people make bad moves instead of exchanging queens, and it's to my advantage. So keep an eye out for that. Figure out for yourself if you have that problem. get better with your minor pieces, learn better strategy, and it'll definitely help you out. And let's go to our final example here on the crushing blows. For the load, there we are. All right. So it is White's turn, and what was the move here that was played? I believe it was Queen D3. Yes, it was Queen D3. So this is the blunder that White makes, and we need to capitalize on it somehow. So, looking at the board, see if you can figure out where we capitalize on this blunder. There aren't very many good options for White at this point, so that was there's really only one good move that White could have played, and it obviously wasn't that. So we want to attack this queen. So again, let's think how would be a good way to attack this queen. We love forking the queen and the king often, so look for opportunities to fork the queen and king. So there are no spaces on the board right now where the knight can fork the queen and king. We would love to put our knight here and attack the queen, and if the king was instead here or here or here, it would work, but he's not. So if we can make him there, check with the rook, and then if king takes, then we win the queen. And that's what we do here, is we win the queen that way. Now, there's also the opportunity that White doesn't have to do that, and probably maybe shouldn't do that. Instead, king to h8, and when king goes to h8, we're just up a rook here. So we just win a rook instead of the exchange rook for a queen. Who's to say which is better? It depends. I mean, this is probably worse for White, just being a queen for a rook down. But either way, it's not going to end well for White because of this blunder. Now, what White needed to do instead of moving his queen out of the way was block with the rook, and then we can exchange or whatever, and he doesn't have that threat looming over him. Or, even something like this, and then it turns into something like a draw. But there's a lot of different options White could do after that, but he needed to not move his queen and bring the rook here instead, because this line of attack is very dangerous. The lateral rook line on the g2 square, especially since this pawn wasn't here anymore. Often moving your pawn here on either f3 or f6 or whatever is protecting your king on this diagonal is not going to be a good idea. There's always exceptions. If you need to move this for some reason or another, it might be all right. But rule of thumb, I would leave this pawn here. If you're going to move a pawn up, this is usually the one to do. It just makes your king safer because you don't have a bishop attacking from the side where you might over here. So that's all we got today for the crushing blows for our Tactics Tuesday, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. These puzzles are on my study on leechess.org if you ever want to go check them out and do some research of your own. And obviously just use the puzzle dashboard and all the different tactical motifs and find what works for you and what you're bad at, and then go and study it. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.